Hello again, Internet. Welcome to another riveting NodeRed oBIX Niagara4 tutorial. This is another high-level tutorial that assumes a lot that you're familiar with NodeRed, familiar with Niagara4, and maybe just getting started with oBIX. In previous videos, I've showed how to make oBIX connections between NodeRed and Niagara4. I've showed how you can pull data out of Niagara4 and get it into NodeRed. I've showed how you can get data from NodeRed and write it into Niagara4. Now what we're going to talk about is a special operation in oBIX that's known as the watch. And what is the watch for? Well, if you've got a lot of data points that you would like to pull out of Niagara4 into NodeRed via oBIX, and you want those data points to update live, and you have a number of them, more than one, any number, 5, 10, 20 of them, 2,000 of them. The tool that you want to reach for is a watch. And what is a watch? A watch is a way for the oBIX system to say, I'm going to give you the values that updated or the values that changed. And it optimizes the network traffic to utilize a watch. So it's really, really important for systems that you set up that are going to pull numerous points to make sure that you make use of the watch. Now, let's just dig right into it. The first thing I'm going to suggest is go back to the first video where I created this video called Integration of NodeRed and Niagara4 through oBIX. And if you look at the description of the video and show more, you'll see I actually posted a flow into the description. So I'm just going to copy that flow. Copy. And then we'll paste it in here. We're going to go import, clipboard, paste, and import. Okay. And now I've got multiple flows named flow 1. So let me just delete this flow. Boweated. Okay. And deploy. So what was this? This was me initializing a connection to a JACE and pulling out a suction pressure, but it should have some of the stuff that we're going to need, which is the username that oBIX is going to log in with, the password, the IP address, and the HTTPS port. And this is how we're going to convert our username and password so it's not in plain text. And we're not going to need this anymore, so I'll get rid of this. And we're not going to create a message, but we are going to create a flow variable with the auth in it. Create a flow variable to auth. And this is just one way to store your credentials so that you can have other nodes in the same flow reach for them. So I'm going to use flow.set, and I'll call it oBIX auth. And I'm just going to set it equal to this. So, comma, auth hash. And what else am I going to need? Well, if those are my login credentials, I need to know where am I going to log in. So let's set a flow variable for that too. We'll just call it IP. And in there we'll set it equal to IP address plus a colon plus HTTPS port. And that should give us what we need for flow variables. Since we're not going to actually make a HTTP request, we don't need that either. So this is just, what are we doing? We're taking username, password, and we're storing that in a flow variable called oBIX auth. We're taking IP address and HTTPS port, and we're storing that in a flow variable called IP, and that's it. And let's just call this and for oBIX login creds. Okay. Delete this link, and we don't need this to repeat. We just want to do it once and then not repeat. So, and I'll call this initialize or init. When we first deploy, it'll initialize and it'll load these values that we've got in here. And so I might leave myself a little note with a comment if I decide I'm going to reuse this flow later to enter login details. Okay. All right, that gets us started with our authorization to access our Niagara station. So then, what's next? Let's make some more comments. How to watch. Let's do this. We are gonna need to start with another inject. I'm gonna call this post. And we are going to write a function here. Let's see. Okay. And what we're doing with this function is we're configuring a GET request. To create the watch. Step 1, make a watch. So this is going to pass a message into a HTTP request. So what's that message? Well, it's going to be method post and URL we got to, for Niagara4, we got to use HTTPS : / and then we can just call our flow variable. So flow.get IP. And then this is how we're going to create the watch. We're going to use /oBIX /watch service /make. If we post that HTTP request, we will make a watch. We need a comma here. Okay, and let's specify some headers. You may need some of these, you may need all of these, you may need none of these. Let's see. I'm going to use authorization. Set it to basic. And flow.get. I lied. You are going to need this. Flow.get. Here's how we're going to prove that we have permission to ask the Niagara system to create a watch. It's passing our oBIX auth. And what kind of content type? Content type. Application XML. Not .xml, but /XML. And another comma. And what are we going to accept? Well, let's not be picky. We'll accept whatever they want to give us. And we got a closed curly bracket, another closed curly bracket, and we need a semicolon. Okay. Okay, now we need to create the actual payload of what are we asking the watch service to make. So I'm gonna leave myself a little comment. Send the payload as XML, which you can get creative in a NodeRed function. Message.payload is equal to, and we're gonna put this all in quotes because we're gonna mimic some XML syntax. Object href is equal to http localhost / oBIX / watch service / watch 32. You know what? Actually, I'm really tempted to see what will happen if we don't even pass. I take it back. I'm gonna keep thinking out loud. This was supposed to be double quotes here. And is equal to oBIX watch. Display is equal to oBIX watch. XMLNS XSI is equal to HTTP www.w3.org/2001 XML schema -instance XSI schema location equals HTTP oBIX.org/ns/schema version 1.0 oBIX XSD XMLNS equals this again. And now we're gonna close those first angle brackets. Actually, we're gonna use a quote, then close the angle brackets, and then another slash. And then what do we need? Another open angle bracket, rel time name equals lease, val equals pt 10 seconds. So we're saying keep this watch open for 10 seconds unless someone pulls for this watch. And I'll talk about the general communication of a watch between the server and the client in a second here. Localhost oBIX watch service watch 32 lease display 60 display equals 60 seconds. 60 seconds needs to be in quotes. Display name equals lease. And it is writable. Writable equals true. Okay, and then here are the 5 operations that we are gonna want our watch to have. The first operation, op name, is gonna be add. We are gonna want to have the ability to add an operation or add a point to our watch. And when we are gonna do that, we're going to need this add operation, local host slash oBIX slash watch service slash watch 32 add in equals oBIX colon watch in out equals oBIX colon watch out. Let me expand this text editor so we can see everything. Close my angle brackets, and we're done with that operation. Now let's add another operation. Op name is equal to, we are going to want to remove. We maybe want to take a point out of our watch. So href is equal to, it's going to be this, and then just copy that, paste slash remove, and in oBIX watch in out equals oBIX colon nil slash close your angle brackets. Okay, we're on to third operation. Op name equals poll changes. Arguably the most useful one, the one that's going to get used the most. And we'll just grab this, copy, paste. Ooh, I see a mistake. I see I need a double quote right there. And this one's going to be called poll changes. No surprises there. In equals oBIX nil out equals oBIX watch out. I know this might seem confusing, but this is all going to make sense in a minute here. Next operation, name is going to be poll refresh. And we'll just paste again. Don't forget my quotes on the link, and this one's going to be poll refresh. In equals oBIX nil out equals oBIX watch out slash close my angle brackets, another slash. Okay, and then last operation, op name, and I'll admit I rarely use it, but it is polite. Paste, put the quotes in. It is polite to delete. And I am gonna just clean this up, put a slash at the end of my operations. Pull changes, remove, add, yep, okay, and delete. In equals oBIX colon nil out equals oBIX colon nil capital N slash close the angle brackets, open angle brackets slash obj, close the angle brackets, single quote, semicolon. Okay, so that is our payload. What are we doing with this payload? We're saying create a watch. When you create that watch, give it a lease time of 10 seconds and give the watch 5 operations. Give the watch the ability to add points, remove points, pull changes. The pull changes is show me the points that have had their values update. Pull refresh. This is give me every value that's in the watch, and delete, remove this watch. If you don't pull changes within the lease time, then the watch will automatically be deleted. But if you are writing an application and for some reason you know, oh, I don't need that watch anymore, it's polite to tell the oBIX server, just remove that watch, I'm done with it. Now, since this is going to send a HTTP post to our Niagara server, if we don't do this, we'll get a SSL cert error. So we're going to reject unauthorized equals false. And okay, this is our function for getting things started here. So done. I'm gonna comment this up with create the watch itself. So even though in here I said create a watch and number it 32, it doesn't matter what number I plug in here. It's gonna create a watch number, and you're gonna need to know what that watch number is. We should maybe talk about what is going on here. I'm gonna take 5, 10, 20 points in NodeRed, and those points are on a Niagara4 system. And I'm gonna say to Niagara4, hey, these 5, 10, 20 points, I'm gonna want to know what their value is. And oBIX says, okay, I'll add them to the list of things you want to know about, and we'll call that list watch 32. And then 5 seconds later, you say, NodeRed, the client, says to the Niagara, the oBIX server, hey, give me the updates for watch 32. And the oBIX server says, okay, here's the points that have changed their value since the last time you asked. And that's the way the communication works via oBIX between a client and a server. And so what we've done here so far is we've given NodeRed the ability to log into this Niagara4 system using login credentials. And we've created the message payload that we are going to need to send as an HTTP request, so we might as well use this guy right here. Make sure that this is set to everything, set by message method. Okay. And then let's see what comes back. We'll just throw a debugger in here and see if this works. Debug or deploy, clear out my debug window. This should have initialized. So let's hit this post. All right. And we get an error back. So what's our error say? Error expecting ampersand pound x27. Okay, let's just have a look at my function for a second here. Can't type all this and not make at least a couple mistakes, right? I think I got it now. All these HTTP, they all had to be HTTP and not HTTPS. And then I had a quote missed, and I had an equal sign missed. Or I had a colon, a quotation instead of a colon, and I was missing one equal sign. All right, I think I've got this fixed now. Let's see. Clear this debug window. Post this. Okay. Finally. All right, so there's no error, but we get back this XML. So let's do the same thing we did before in our first video, where we're gonna parse the XML using this guy right here. Deploy again, clean up the debug window, and post. Let's see what we get. Okay, so what comes back is an object. Inside that object is an object. Inside that object is an object and two arrays. So the first object gives us watch 1. Tells us the watch number that was created is a watch. Display this. Okay. Now, what time do we got? It's got 30. It's got a 30-second lease. PT 30 seconds. Okay, and then operations. Here they all are. Add. Remove. Poll changes. Poll refresh. And delete. Okay. So what are we going to do next? We've created a watch. Now we probably want to add some points to this watch. These links here for not remove but poll refresh, poll changes, or that's delete. So where's poll refresh? There we go. So the link here for poll changes, this is going to be very useful later. And the link here for poll refresh is also going to be very useful later. And so I'm tempted to take these and load them into flow variables. And we can do that pretty easily with a change node. If we just copy the path to this out of here, this is poll refresh, and grab a change node, then what we can do is say get this message payload object operation array number 3 link, and then let's load that into a flow variable, and we'll call it poll object number 3 poll refresh. And while we're at it, let's add another change node. And so we got poll refresh. Let's grab this path, copy path, message paste operation 2, and let's call this pull changes. All right. Pull flow variables. So now what we've done is we've stored this link, this HTTPS IP address, HTTPS port, oBIX, watch service, watch number. It's important. The important thing there is the watch number, and the operation remove. We've stored that entire URL into this flow variable that we're going to call. Well, not we didn't want remove, but pull, let's take pull changes as an example. We're going to take that whole URL, and the important piece is going to be the watch number here, and we're going to store it in this flow variable. Say done to this, and then we'll take the XML out and just plug that into there. Okay. Now we're also going to need this watch number, or it might be very useful for us to be able to see in our NodeRed flow what the watch number is. And so let's roll this all up again. Object $, here it is. So we can take this path and let's do something with it. Let's create a new function. We wanted to just grab that watch number. So we'll call this function watch number, and we'll set the we'll set a string variable equal to message.payload.object.$.href : and then let's just take a look at that. So node.status is address. Done. And let's grab the watch number out of this XML block here, and hit our post inject, or deploy first, and clean up this debug post. Okay, so I can see watch number, the whole thing here. So let's do a little bit of JavaScript string parsing in here. Let's just take a look at that one more time. So it got us this whole. Well, we'll copy it out of here. What did it get us? It got us this, right? But what we're really interested is in the watch number, in this case, watch 51. So here's the string. I'll just put this in, I'll put the string in a comment in the function so we can look at it. And here's what we're gonna do is, see the word watch appears twice. It's there and it's here. Well, we can use a JavaScript string function to say, find the last time that the word watch appears in this string, and then tell me the index of it, which will return the number of this W. It'll start counting 0 from here, and then count all the way up and say, okay, this is index number 40 or 50 something. So the way that works is, we've already taken this string and loaded it into a variable called address. And so address is a string type variable. So what we're going to do next is say normally I wouldn't name a variable like this, but just for transparency, the first W in the in the last watch is equal to address dot last index of, and this is where you specify what is it we're looking for. Well, we're looking for the word watch, and we can say tell me what the last index of that is. And a lot of times I'll put this into node status just to see what it comes up with. So I'll put this here for a second and just check deploy, and what we should get is a number post, and we get the number 46. Okay, so that's index number 46 is this W right here. Start counting from 0 here and count up to 46, and you're here. Now what we want next is to know where this slash, because we could have a watch that's the number 1, or it could be the number 101. So it could be 1 digit long, it could be 2 digits long, it could be 3 digits long. So now that we know where this is, let's ask where's the next slash that occurs after this. And you can do that in JavaScript with let's see. We'll just call this the last slash after last watch is equal to address, which is the string that we're working through, and then we can just use index of, and we want the slash, and then there's an optional argument where we can say where to start looking, and so we'll just tell it to start looking at this index location, paste. And so then that should tell us where the string ends, or specifically the index of this. And we can check that the same way that we checked the first W of the last appearance of the word watch, with dropping it into node status and done to deploy. Let's check this out. And so now I get 54. And so then what I've done is I've said, where's this W and where is this slash? And I've loaded those index numbers into the first W in the last watch and the last slash after the last watch. Now what I want to do is we'll call it watch, and we'll set it equal to address.substring. And we'll use substring, and we'll say start at this index number. Nope, that is not what I wanted. I want to copy this. Start at that index number, comma, end at this index number. Paste, and semicolon. And so then we'll just check and see watch, because we want to know what's stored in this variable. Okay, done, deploy. Now let's try this again, post watch number, and see now we get watch 27. And I'll just keep hitting post, and you'll see watch 25, watch 45. So I'm creating all these watches, watch 103, and now I have an easy way in my NodeRed editor to see what's the watch number of the watch that I just created. But we're also going to want this later. So since we've got that, we'll also set it into a flow variable with flow.set. We'll call it watch and set it equal to, with a comma, watch. Okay, so now we've taken that, not just the number, but the word watch and the number, and we've assigned it to a flow variable that we can grab later. and deploy. And most recent one was watch 66. Okay. So we did a lot right here. We created the watch itself, and then we assigned flow variables, both the watch number using some JavaScript string processing, and the link for poll refresh and for poll changes. Okay, so what's the next step for us? Well, we're actually going to need to add points to this watch, and we could use another inject to add points. I like to use this complete node, and I just double click on it and select a node, and I point it at, I guess we can point it at this watch number and say, okay, once you've got your watch number, then do this thing next. And what is it that we're gonna do? Well, the same thing we always do, Pinky. Try to take over the world. We're gonna create a function. And instead of just creating a new function, I'm just gonna grab this function and copy and paste it. Because we're configuring a GET request. This wasn't a GET request. This was a lie. This was a post. But and this is going to be a post too. Configuring a post, but we're not creating the watch itself. This is configuring a post to add points to the watch. That's what we're going to do next. And I'll copy and paste a comment to add points to the watch you just created. Okay. And what are we going to do in here? We can leave this part of the message the same, except for what are we going to need to change? Well, we're not using the make operation. So we'll take that out of there. Delete make. And then we're going to be making this, we're going to be doing an add operation, but we're going to be doing it to what? We're going to do it to a specific watch. So what watch are we going to do it to? Well, we're going to do it to the watch that we just created. And what watch is that? Well, we loaded that watch into a flow variable called watch. So let's go get that flow variable. And now that we've got that flow variable in here, we can add the operation that we want, which is add. And we need quotes here and here. So HTTPS, flow IP, the watch service, this specific watch, and then add. Okay. And same oBIX auth, we're good there. So here's where we're going to, this is where we're going to list the URI of the points to be included in this watch. So at this point, let's go pick some points. I'm gonna switch us over to Workbench here, and instead of using these points that I used for our second video, let's actually, this is a chiller with a couple of turbo core compressors. So we'll go into drivers, Modbus network. Let's take a look, see if compressor 1 points folder, and then let's have a look and see, is this compressor running right now? And yeah, okay, so it's got a, here's its speed, here's its demand, minimum, maximum speeds. What else would be super useful from this compressor? Suction and discharge pressures, inlet guide vane percentage. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up a notepad, and we will use that notepad to grab a couple, maybe a half dozen points that we're interested in here. So I'll start with this one, and I think I can just right click and copy and paste, and that gave me what I need roughly. Station, slot, drivers. Yeah, that's gonna work. So I'm gonna just keep doing that. I want suction pressure, copy, paste. Let's take discharge pressure, copy, paste. Suction temperature, sure, copy, paste. Discharge temperature, copy, paste. What else would be nice? I like to use, I'd like to know the demand, copy, paste. And I'd like to know the minimum speed, copy that, paste. I'd like to know the maximum speed, and the actual speed. And we'll stop there. That's a lot, or that's a good place for us to start. So I'm gonna just grab these just like this. I am actually gonna need to change these a little bit. So we might as well do it right here in Notepad. The first thing I'm gonna need to do is, instead of station slot, and I'm gonna use a find and replace, copy. I need to find, replace, yeah. So find station, colon, pipe, slot, colon, and I'm gonna change that to open angle bracket URI val is equal to quote slash oBIX slash config, and let's replace all. URI val equals open quotes slash oBIX slash config slash drivers. Okay, so now that we've done that, I need to just add something to the end of each one of these because I specifically want the out values. So I'm gonna say that I want out, and then because this is gonna be XML, it's a little bit of formatting, and I'm just gonna copy this for each one of these points and paste it on. Okay, and now this, I need to get this all to behave like XML. So what it's gonna start with is object is equal to oBIX watch in. List names equals hrefs quote close angle bracket. Okay, and just so it's easier for me to see, I'll put slashes before and after. List, close this object, slash obj, ob, not h, j, close angle brackets. Okay, single quote. Okay, this is actually my this is my message payload, so I'll just set it to be message dot payload Yikes. And this is what we're gonna copy and then switch back over to NodeRed, and we're gonna paste it in here, and we're just gonna delete this old message payload. We're not doing that. That was for the make. Okay, and since we're using Niagara4 and not Niagara AX, we are gonna need this message.reject unauthorized false. Okay, so what's gonna happen here? We are going to post a add to the watch that was just created and loaded into a flow variable. And what are we going to post? A payload that says to watch these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points. And let's see if this works. So we'll deploy this. And oh, right. So this complete node is watching this watch number node to see that when it completes, do this. All right. So we better do that. And what else? Well, we're going to need to actually create an HTTP request to send this post to. So we might as well do that. And then we'll debug to see if we get any errors out. All right, let's try this. Let's see what happens here. Okay, I got some errors. Expecting element start. Okay, I'm gonna see if we can find my bug. And I found my bug right away. It was, I closed object correctly, but I didn't open it correctly. I was missing angle bracket right here. Let's try this. Deploy, clean up my debug window, and post. Oh, still got an error. Okay, try one more time. And I see it again right away. My quoted attribute that's missing is this quote here. Done, deploy. Okay, and third time's a charm. Let's try again. Post. And okay, great. No errors that time. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna use an XML parser. We'll drop it right in here. And let's clean up this debug and let's run this again, see what we get. Okay, so this first one, you can see where a message in the debug window comes from by actually just clicking or putting your mouse, clicking on the node here. See, it'll blink. So that's telling me that came from the first debug window, or the first debug node. And we can quiet that by just doing this. And that this one came from the second one. So this is the one we're interested in right now. Let's expand this out and see what do we get when we said add these points. It drew us a list of reals, and here they are, 9 of them starting with 0. And so here is the value for 0. It is 59.9, and that is the inlet guide vein open percentage for compressor number 1. And what's this? Our value is 41.5, and that is the suction pressure for compressor number 1. And so we've added these to the watch, and when we added them to the watch, we got a bunch of useful stuff. We got for each point that we added, we get the value, we get this href link to where did that value come from, and then we get this what is it? It's an oBIX /def/baha : status numeric. We get a display value that will give you its units and its status, the display name, an icon for it, and what are the units, in this case units percent. Okay, so that's a lot of really great useful information. So now that we have created the watch and added these points to the watch, now what do we do? Well, we could ask oBIX to give us all the points that are in the watch. And we could do that to confirm that the points are in the watch, even though we can see it in the output here. I'll silence this debug, and what we will do is create a new post with a new function, a new HTTP request, and a new XML parser. So I'm just going to highlight all of these, and we'll copy and paste them. And what's going to be different is this is going to be how we pull refresh. Pull refresh. And what do you pull refresh for? It returns everything in the watch. And you typically don't want to pull refresh. This would be an initialization sort of thing. And so we'll rename this configure a post to execute a pull refresh. All right, and so what are we going to do when we run this? Well, our URL, we already stored it in a flow variable, so we can yank this whole thing out here, just delete it, and we can say our URL is equal to flow.get pull refresh. We got our auth, we're accepting anything, and this is a post with no payload, so we're just going to delete the payload. We don't need a payload for this. All right, and say done. And do I want to deploy it? Well, let's throw a debugger on the end here. And notice I've got all the other debuggers silenced right now. So we will first create a watch, post this. We created watch 109, it completed, it added the points to the watch, and now we will run a pull refresh to say what's in the watch. And what did we get? We get a list of reels, 9 long. First one is, the value is 90. It is the discharged temperature. It's in degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, and we'll just check the last one. And we get a value of 16,855, and that is the compressor's actual speed in RPM, revolutions per minute. Okay, so that pull refresh confirmed that our points are in the watch, and the watch is outputting the points values and units correctly. But you're not gonna mash post or pull refresh when you're creating an application that is asking oBIX to give you data. The function that you're gonna reach for is, we made one other flow variable. We made a flow variable for pull refresh, but we made it a flow variable for pull changes. That's the one we're going to use. That's the one that you're going to lean on predominantly. I'm going to silence this one for a second, and we're going to copy and paste this. And I'll add a new comment, because now what we're going to do is pull changes, which returns values being watched that have changed since the last time you asked. Okay, configuring a post to execute a pull changes. And we can do the same thing we did here. Instead of pull refresh, we can just call the flow variable we made earlier pull changes. And I don't think we're going to need anything else in this function, so we're done here. Deploy this, and let's hit post on this. And oh, I don't want my debugger silenced, so let's open that up. Okay, and we got an error right away. What do we got? Now, this is actually a good place for us to talk about error detection. So we got an error, bad URI error. Now, I know what happened here is that I asked it to pull changes on a watch that no longer existed because that watch had a 10-second or a 30-second lease time, and I didn't pull for changes in that time. And so the oBIX server said, oh, nobody's watching this watch. We'll just delete this watch, which is fair game. So I probably want to check to see if that happens, because this, what is a post right here on pull for changes, is going to, in my NodeRed application, be an automatic looping item. And sometimes it's possible, if the communication to the JSON went down, that this looping element inject is going to return an error. I'm gonna use a switch node, and in the switch node, I'm gonna say we're looking for an error here. And so if there is a message dot error, then message dot error is not empty, and this would mean error. So if there is an error, what do we want to do? Well, let's delay for a few seconds. That'll also give us, if you trigger a delay, you get a little blue box on the delay. So we'll delay 5 seconds if we get an error. And then we'll take the delay. If there is an error, we're going to start all the way back at the beginning and create the watch itself. So that's going to be how our error detection, that's what our error detection is going to do. I'm going to leave it down here for now. Message.payload.error is not empty. But instead of grabbing it right out of there, right out of the HTTP request, we'll grab it after it's been parsed via XML. And deploy this. And we'll try this one more time. A lot of effort for error correction. Okay, see that triggered the delay there? So then what that's going to do is 5 seconds later, it's going to create the watch, add the point, which when it created the watch, it's going to change the flow variable for pull changes. It'll update it to the new watch. Now when I hit post, I get I didn't get an error that time. So I'm going to hit post one more time to show that I am now getting the list. And so what this would do is, now if you simply automated this post here to say inject once, let's say after 5 seconds, and then do it again every, I don't know, let's say 10 seconds. Deploy this. Now what we will get is we're going to get an error on that first one because the watch did not exist, and then we're going to start getting data back. And that's just one way to get your watch going and to keep it going, and also to automate handling if the watch ever goes down and you want the watch to come back up automatically. That's one easy way to do it. And so this is probably a good place for us to stop. Parsing out how to grab these values is a lot of playing with split and join, and we'll tackle that on some other tutorial, but for the purposes of this tutorial, that is how you do an oBIX watch. And I know this one was a long one, but the oBIX watch is a really important operation in oBIX. It might be the most important operation. Typically, you're not just using oBIX to look at one single data point. Typically, you're using it to look at a lot of them. And if you don't use the watch, it's not going to work. Maybe it'll work a little bit, but you're going to cause so much network congestion, and eventually your oBIX server is going to fail to respond in a sensible way. But using the oBIX watch service guarantees that only the values that have changed need to be pushed out over the network. And so here, my list only contains 8 items. There are 9 in my total watch list, but I only got 8 on that response because 9 of them hadn't changed. And now here I get 9, and because by that time, 9 values had changed. And this is how oBIX optimizes network traffic using the watch service. And I hope this was useful. Please use the watch service, and if you like these videos, then give us a like and subscribe. Feel free to give us some comments, questions, and feedback, and see you on the next one. Thanks again.